NMC, along with Networks Northwest, GTAMC, and MMTC, they were recipients of Industry 4.0 MEDC grant. The grant will promote Industry 4.0 in the area and serves as a stepping stone as advanced manufacturing technologies are deployed throughout Michigan. So today, let me go ahead and introduce to you our facilitator, Jason Slade, newly announced Vice President of Strategic Initiatives with Northwestern Michigan College. Congratulations, Jason.
Thanks, Brenda.
And on our panel today, we have with us Rob Dickinson, Regional Director of Business Services with Networks Northwest, Ryan Schultz, Chief Operating Officer with MR Products, Kent Wood, Principal of Borealis Strategic, and Rich Woolen, Regional VP and Director of MMTC. Thank you all for being here. And Jason, why don't you take it away?
Excellent. Brenda, thank you very much for that introduction. We appreciate it. And thank you to all the panelists for attending. I think we have a great group here that can really provide an overview of Industry 4.0 and what some of our initiatives and goals are for this region. And to all the participants, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to be part of this. We know that this is a topic that we're hearing more and more about, and we're very excited to share what we're doing in this region, which is hopefully just the beginning of many more Industry 4.0 activities. So our agenda for today is we're going to walk through Industry 4.0, kind of a broad overview as to what it is, and then really diving into our local impact. So what does this grant do, and what's that economic impact that we hopefully see from it? Then we're going to do a case study of the Industry 4.0 lab at NMC, which the grant is a driver for. And then Rich and Ryan are going to dive into Industry 4.0 assessments and how MMTC can support that. And we're going to use Ryan's experience as a case study. And then we're going to jump into some timing. So Kent and Rob are going to provide additional overviews over some of the grant milestones and future events. And as Brenda said, please share questions that you have. Some of those we'll obviously try to answer right now. Maybe there's some that we take back later, but we really look at this as an ongoing conversation that we have around Industry 4.0 as it affects this region on there. And so what we're looking at is, Industry 4.0 as a dramatic change in manufacturing production. We've experienced this multiple times already in our history in manufacturing here in the United States. So, everything from moving to mass production to becoming more automated. And now Industry 4.0 is looked at as that next revolution, where now we're starting to look at a smart factory model, autonomous systems, the ability to interact with data, to get more data in machine learning on there. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of spearhead these efforts around this new phase of manufacturing, which we're really excited for, and some of our industry partners are already starting to jump into. So when you hear that buzzword Industry 4.0, what we're trying to capture is this next phase as we move from traditional robots into cobots, as we move into smarter and smarter manufacturing, as we make better decisions, as we pull data, we have the ability to capture data with new sensor technology, and then actually do something with that data. Learn on the fly, adjust our manufacturing facilities, adjust our production to accommodate this. So we're looking at this as a dramatic change that we're going to see in industry, and some of us are already experiencing on there. So this diagram, and Rich, you can jump in whenever you want. This is how MMTC illustrates Industry 4.0, and this is a great overview of the technology sectors that we're experiencing here in Michigan. So we're primarily focused right now through this grant, as you'll see, in some of the robotics and cobot applications, the systems integration, and then dabbling into the Internet of Things as we look at different sensor technologies to integrate into our lab facility and hopefully work with our local manufacturers on. But this can be really expanded out into even more areas that we hope to capture moving forward. Cybersecurity, we're seeing that as a major threat to a number of our industry partners on there. The ability to collect more data, big data, but more importantly, do something with that data. Simulation, so we can move smarter, faster, quicker. Our additive manufacturing, which we dabble into already as part of our engineering tech program, but we'd like to push that farther on there. And then getting into some of the augmented or virtual reality networks on there so that we can visualize these systems before we implement them. Rich, is there anything you want to add to that one?
Nope, I think you did.
Great, thank you. So, Kent or Rob, do you want to give an overview of the grant award and what we're trying to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody. Kent Wood here. I am working with this Industry 4.0 Consortium and Networks Northwest to help manage this grant effort. I want to say it was late last year when MEDC announced that they would be launching an Industry 4.0 grant effort to align Industry 4.0 efforts across the state. And our region, really, under the leadership of those that are in this consortium, especially Networks Northwest and the manufacturing associations throughout the region and economic development organizations, put in for a joint grant request. And with the big picture goal of that being to align our efforts in this Northwest Michigan region around what we're doing to educate and implement Industry 4.0 technologies in the region. So there's really, I would say, and Rob will come in here too to add anything, but to me, there's sort of three legs of the stool of this grant. There is the Industry 4.0 Learning Lab and micro-credentialing component of this that Jason and Rich will be talking about coming up here in a little bit. There's the awareness building throughout the region and our own efforts to align Industry 4.0 efforts across Northwest Michigan, and then developing Industry 4.0 a strategy and marketing around that strategy. Next slide here, and feel free to chime in, Rob. But here's just kind of a quick list of kind of some of the key elements that we'll be looking to do over the course of this next year. Certainly, education and instructional events like this. We'll have more coming up that we'll expand on a little bit later. We mentioned that lab, the micro-credentialing, so the training, the hands-on aspect of it, looking at developing materials, developing a scorecard, and I think probably most importantly too, by the end of this, is developing opportunities to assist, especially our small and mid-sized employers and manufacturers, with investment risks, installation and programming, maintenance, and the like.
Okay, so thanks, Ken. I think you perfectly summed that up in that. I would only add that we're really excited to be working with NMC. Most of the area of businesses that we talk to every day, my team at Northwest Michigan Works, I'm the regional director of the business services team. So our customer is that employer. Most of those individuals that we talk to want to get their hands on these kinds of things and to explore them, and that learning lab that's being constructed is exactly that. So we're really excited about that and the opportunities that are going to lie ahead for many, many people in this area. As far as economic impact, as we see employers adopt the newer technology and the newer practices that Industry 4.0 is going to tout, those employers are going to have access to more contracts and work. So those things will kind of go up. We talk about the expansion of the workforce when it comes to that. And that's really taking anybody that's new to the workforce. So really kind of pulling from those student organizations, whether it's an ISD, a local school, or an NMC, a local college, all the way to training incumbents, people that already work for you, to expand the knowledge base and expand that workforce for you, make them more efficient. Leads right into the next one, the upskilling of the current workforce and hiring into higher level careers. So we have our entry levels right now. We're hoping Industry 4.0 can maybe up that entry level position so that you come into it with more skill set and you're paid more for that. So higher wages come into play. And then, of course, one of the things that we at Northwest Michigan Works really take to heart is that retention. So how are you going to keep the employees? What's the culture like? Industry 4.0 is going to help that because you're higher paid, better trained individuals. That builds loyalty to the company, especially if the employees know that you're willing to invest. So all that kind of leads into the economic impact. The benefits of having a higher paid workforce, just like it says here, and more of those people in the workforce will be felt by communities, not just the individuals. And that leads into the opportunities for improvement. Small caveat, these are early indications. So what is Industry 4.0 going to do for us? What would it do for a specific employer that wants to adopt this? Well, we're going through this, and chime in anybody. I know Rich and I had a conversation briefly about this some time ago, but 3 to 4% gross margin improvement, 10% improvement in run rate. So if you're a manufacturer, these things could be happening for you pretty early. We're early in the process right now. That's why these are early indications. And you could reduce that scrap work or rework by 50%. So this is what we think. And I know that there's employers out there that are trying this right now that could give us a better forecast than this. But if you're seeing these kinds of items for an individual employer, what's to stop you from going and making this investment?
Great, thank you, Rob, Kent. And as we go through and as you have questions, feel free to jot them down, or we'll do some follow-up along any of these slides as we go. So
We do have a question, Jason. They want to know the source of the stats. Do we have that?
I can chime in on that. So some of this information came from, this information came from NMTC. One of the things as part of the national network of the manufacturing extension partnerships, our clients on projects get surveyed 6 to 12 months after a project completion for impacts by a third party. These are early indicators because they're based on conversations with companies. We haven't been at this long enough for companies to get that survey where they've had the opportunity to actually quantify impacts. So we expect, I would say between 6 and 12 months from now, we'll start to see some of that information flow in those impact surveys that go out to clients. But it's something that's done nationally. But these were data from projects that evolved out of assessments where the companies were expecting or starting to see improvements in these areas. So hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Rich. So as Kent brought up, we can look at these as this grant is being made up of multiple pillars. And one of those first pillars is the Industry 4.0 Learning Lab at NMC. So what we're trying to do is replicate what a typical local manufacturing operation would experience. What are we seeing in our industry? We're fortunate to have a strong advisory board to support not only our engineering tech program, but our manufacturing program, and also our apprenticeship pathways here at the college. And so we're able to get firsthand knowledge of what they're running into and what they currently have. And so what we want to do is create a area or space that mimics what they're experiencing. And then the learning lab portion is the idea of taking this technology that is similar to what they have in place and then incorporating some of the Industry 4.0 principles to it. So can we add collaborative robot to it? Can we add some sensors to it? Can we create a space where manufacturers can come and either train their workforce or maybe they have an idea and they want to have like a sandbox that they can use for their own experimentation. And so the idea is this would be the beginning of a hub. And so this hub would have credit and non-credit training options. You heard Kent bring up some of the micro-credentialing. What that means is, can we stack up some of our courses together and provide a meaningful credential or skill set for our local manufacturing base and employers? And then really this would be an access point for our industry partners at Parsons Stooling. So I think it helps sometimes to see it in pictures. So what we have is our existing manufacturing lab. You can see to the back of the picture some of our PLCs. Don't mind the shower curtains. We're still making our way through COVID protocols like everybody else on there. But we have a conveyor system that MMTC has used in the past for some of their training, and we have the ability to tap into that and add some key components to mimic a small manufacturing operation. So what we'll have is a collaborative robot, or called a cobot on there. We spec'd out a universal robot, and it'll pick parts up, place them into the mill. We'll perform a couple milling operations, pull it out of the mill with the cobot, place it back onto the conveyor, let the part work its way down the conveyor. We'll have some sensors on there where we can detect some of the key features of the part that we have, and then display it up there. So now we have data transmission, and we can make some decisions on how our production is occurring, what we're seeing in terms of the manufacturing operation, run rates, all kinds of things like that. And the idea is that this could all be broken apart. So we want to be able to pull that collaborative robot off and allow a local manufacturer, a group of students, maybe a small cohort that we have in place, be trained just on that cobot. Same thing with the mill, same thing with the other components embedded in here, and then bring them all together and really focus on that integration piece. So if we have a local partner that says, hey, you know, this is what I'm running into. I have this milling operation and I'm not quite sure how this cobot could be used. We can say, hey, come to this lab. We'll show you that. You can actually see our process in person. You can play with it. You can experiment with it. You can break it. We'll try to fix it. You know, we can do all those things together as we learn and make our way through this Industry 4.0 blueprint, with the idea that this is all scalable. This is just the start. This gets us going on there. We have an open space that we all can work together, and then we can add components. The best part of this lab would be some of our manufacturing partners coming in and going, hey, have you thought about this? What about this? Could we add this from our own facility to your line here and see how it works? Absolutely on there. And we'd love to train your employers or future employees around that technology. So some of our features, like I said, we have a milling operation that is on order. I was just on the phone with Team Elmers today working out some rigging so we can get it into the lab space. We had a lot of support that Dennis and others arranged through Neff Automation, and they're helping us with a universal robot that's been spec'd out on and ordered. We've been working with H.H. Barnum, MMTC, and others for some smart sensing technology, integration, and then our resources for industry. So space for vendors, partners, and experimentation on there. And then our training opportunities, and this is just as key, as we want to make sure that we have multiple ways for people to access this training. So we would have credit and non-credit options. And that's important because sometimes the credit side of the house, why it's wonderful in terms of scaling people up to a certificate or associate's degree, sometimes it's not as nimble or as responsive as we need it to be. And we understand that maybe it could also be too long on there. So what we're looking for is a combination of those two, and more importantly, not making people make a decision up front, or not make a student or an employer make a decision up front. We want you to be able to navigate between the two pathways and get the skill sets that you need to grow at work, to grow your company, and to grow as an individual, and then navigate back and forth between credit and non-credit. So we're going to use this facility to support our existing apprenticeship pathways. We've already had great feedback from our industry partners that have apprentices in our programs that are really excited for this. We have an existing PLC certification that this will be embedded into. It'll be part of our manufacturing program and engineering tech program on there. There'll be new courses in cobots, sensing, and more that we'll offer on the credit side. And then just today, I was in a advisory board meeting with the Career Tech Center, and their mechatronics program is interested in using this facility for some of their own education this semester. So that'd be great to have those high school students in there. There's 40 of them come in here and use our facilities firsthand and actually get a leg up on competition as they look to enter the workforce, maybe post-graduation from high school, or maybe come to NMC on there. And then really one aspect that we're incredibly excited about is our non-credit training. So what are those entry-level manufacturing assembly skills that we can be providing in this lab? What about collaborative robot programming? What can we do there? How about expanding our existing machining operations into some of these non-credit opportunities? And then micro-credentials is a way for us to create these pathways by stacking them on top of each other. So you can take this short course, this short seminar, this other experience on there. And can we give you something that's industry recognized? And so later this week, I have some additional discussions with a couple what we call third-party assessment groups that have identified some industry standards that we kind of want to apply to this lab. Give them something, not only an NMC certification, but what can we give from our industry counterparts that maybe could be put on a resume that shows that these individuals have some additional skill sets. And so this is what it kind of looks like to the outside on there is we've been very fortunate. The work of Ed Bailey, as he's pushed some of our professional development and training opportunities, has resulted in what we call our micro-credentials on there. And so a few that I picked off our PD website is, our electrical systems and troubleshooting, our industrial maintenance. These are already components that we have in place right now. And we have people that are working their way through these programs to get a micro-credential in industry maintenance. And what we'd like to do is expand this out to include Industry 4.0 components, not only in the industrial maintenance side, but also in a separate manufacturing pathway. And again, these can jump back and forth between our credit and non-credit avenues, and they can be customized based on the needs of employers. So that's one thing that we want to do is if we have this lab set up on there and you come in and say, Jason or Ed, we want to just have this component and this component, maybe a little collaborative robot, maybe a little sensing, and then some, maybe some training related directly to our application, we can come up with that and find a way that works, and then really even have your employees embed themselves in one of these micro-credential pathways. So we're pretty excited for that lab and what we can do. I mean, it's multifaceted, not only in the lab itself, but the integration into the academic classes, and then the expansion into our non-credit offerings. All right, Rich, we're going to transition over to you and some of the work MMTC has been doing for the Industry 4.0 assessments.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So the MMTC received a Industry 4.0 grant from MEDC prior to these regional partners receiving them, along with the Automation Alley down in the Southeast Michigan. And our goal through the MEDC was to get out and help manufacturers establish kind of their current state with the Industry 4.0 assessment. So that's been going on since about the start of or the end of 2020 and now through 2021. It's going to continue for 3 years. The MEDC had a goal of trying to get half of the state manufacturers assessed, which is pretty aggressive. There's about 12,000 manufacturers in the state, so you're talking about 6,000, and that's quite a task. But we have a quick relatively quick 2-hour on-site assessment that is paired with a kind of high-level data analysis. And the goal of that assessment tool is really to help a company establish through the financial assessment, first of all, where are the best opportunities for improving the business, because you don't want to just apply technology to places in the business just to have it if they're not going to have a return on investment. And then the on-site walkthrough, the 2-hour on-site assessment, is covered through this grant under the MEDC, so it's free of charge to a manufacturer or processor. I want to be clear about that. So like food processors, wood processors, places like that, chemical, they all qualify. That 2-hour on-site assessment is really having conversations with key staff there, as well as walking the flow and looking for opportunities. Now, a lot of times companies have opportunities to apply continuous improvement and lean out their operations without applying technology. But oftentimes, once they get it fine-tuned, applying technology either increases speed or reliability or quality. And so we're looking for those opportunities. And the report looks at a number of different areas. There's 40 quantitative and qualitative criteria used that include things like the voice of the business, voice of the customer, what current systems they have, what technology and automation they have, and where that kind of fits within their opportunities to improve the business. So they get a report out of this that basically, and a follow-up meeting discussing that report that basically looks at where can you start to apply some of these opportunities. Part of that report is also a quantification of if you do X, here's the potential result you can get in gains, whether they be cost savings or increased throughput or items like that. And you know, the interesting thing with any kind of innovation adoption is there's always kind of a chicken or the egg. So as Jason was talking about training the next workforce or current workforce that are trying to increase their skills, you know, businesses aren't going to have jobs for them if they're not already going down the path of adopting technology, and vice versa. If they're adopting technology, they need people that can know that technology, implement it, and maintain it. And so there's a little bit of chicken or the egg thing here, and you got to start somewhere. And so our goal with the assessment is really to meet the company where they are, understand what their current level is, understanding what the next steps are, which might be as simple as adding some sensors to pick up data that currently they track manually. They have operators writing stuff down or measuring things that could be measured by sensors. And now they can pick that data up, and then they can transfer that data, access it centrally. We have one client over on the east side that does uses their computers at every work cell to have all their standard work up. They track all their machine data. They're tracking any anomalies to the information to the product, so they can bring in corrective actions. So they're using statistical process control that watch the specific qualities of the product and track those, and then if it starts to get out of whack, they can in real time respond to that before they start making bad parts. So it's real interesting to see how companies adopt this, but every company has to get in the game somewhere at some point. Otherwise, if they just stand still, they're going to get left behind. And so we try to meet them where they are, do the assessment, look at next steps for them that make sense, and then try to align them with the resources that offer solutions to those next steps, which a lot of times those are very specialized vendors. If it's going to be robotics, or it's going to be cybersecurity, or if it's going to be augmented reality, any of those things, those aren't things that we have expertise in. Our expertise is helping companies make the right business choice about where to adopt those. So those are that's kind of the program so far to date. Statewide, we have had 150 completed assessments. So we're still out there trying to get companies to sign on to it, and we're interested in talking with any candidate. I know Ryan Schultz is going to talk in a minute about their experience, and they were one of the early adopters of this. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Perfect, Rich. And so Ryan, if you don't mind introducing yourself and your role, and then give us a rundown of your assessment and your experience.
Sure. Happy to do that. Ryan Schultz, Chief Operating Officer, MR Products. We do business as Mr. Chain. Our main product that we're a proprietary plastic injection molding manufacturer. Our main product we produce is plastic chain, and we produce about 50,000 feet a day in the village of Coatmish. We employ around 100 people, and the village has 200 people in it. So kind of tells you we're kind of a big fish in a very little pond there. So so for us, this Industry 4.0, it kind of it's showing us where we need to go to. We know we need to get there. We use distributors as our main, that's our main customers. Grainger, Uline, Amazon, MSC, Fastenal, pretty much every major distributor within the US, we're selling them plastic chain along with our other accessories and other products. So somebody like Amazon, they're sending us where before, we could count on, getting a weekly order where it's a large order, we can fill up a truck. Now because of Amazon and their effect on the business, I was just looking, you can buy 25 feet of 2-inch silver chain on Amazon, and that takes us just as much work as a, $1,000 order. That's a $15 order. And how do we process those things and how do we get those out the door on time? But, we're playing with billion-dollar people and they don't care that we're in the village of Coatmish. So we got to get on the same page with them. When we talked about the assessment and just getting started, I'm kind of a yes guy. And so when I was approached and said, hey, would you like to try out this assessment? I said, sure, yeah, let's go for it. Let's see where our weaknesses are. I'm always looking for them. I'm in charge of efficiencies along with many other things at the company. But whenever someone says, hey, we got something that might help you out, I'm going to take a look at it. We did the assessment. And when we talk about what stats, like the stats were questioned, like, hey, where do you get those stats from? Or what the improvement, what's that improvement going to be? And I think it's different for every single business that does the assessment, because for us, it was very much, hey, we have people that are, we have our operators, we're recording all the information, what their downtime is, what their, how much chain are they producing, what's our cycle time. And then we get all that information tabulated, and then we got our foreman typing it into Excel, and we got a really cool Excel report. I'll tell you that's just awesome. But it takes time and we don't get that data instantly. So one of the big things from the assessment was to, bring in some machine monitoring, and we're putting that into place. COVID did slow down some things to put things, get things going. But, I think in December, we'll finally have all our chain presses all set up with machine monitoring. We talked with another company that designed production planning that would help out our shipping department to process orders faster, not having to go through order by order and figure out which ones we can do today and things like that. So there's definitely some needs that came out through that assessment that we're aware of. And the great thing about the assessment and working with NMTC was, they have partners, that they've vetted. And that's been the cool part of this too, is that knowing, hey, we have a partner on our side that can help us out. And if something's not moving fast enough, or there's questions or concerns, there's somebody in your corner that's helping you out.
Thanks, Ryan. How long did that assessment take?
Oh, it was kind of more detailed, because again, I just said, yeah, I'll do this. And then I got it and I was like, whoa, this is a lot more information than I kind of was thinking. But then once we went through it all, and it was everything that they asked for was definitely vital to the information they gave back. So there wasn't like extra work. I mean, when I sat down and did it, it was probably 4 to 6 hours. It's a chunk of time, but just going through and just pulling that information out and just asking questions of various people to make sure you're putting down accurate numbers. It was 4 to 6 hours. And then the turnaround was a couple of weeks to have a meeting with MMTC to just go through it all. And so it definitely highlighted areas of concern that we had previously, and just put some numbers to it.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Anything, Rich, that you want to add to Ryan's experience on there?
Sure. I think MR Products is a great example and a classic example, especially in rural areas. He mentioned there's 200 in town and they employ 100 people. And that just really highlights how important manufacturers are to small rural communities. And MR Products makes a plastic chain, which I'm sure there's international competition to make that stuff. And so they've been around a long time, but they are being very aggressive about trying to stay up with the latest state of the art and just keep playing in that area so that you are aware of new innovations that come down and can stay competitive nationally. So that's all I'd add.
Jason, I have a quick question for Ryan. Ryan, were you the only one that filled out that assessment, or did you bring other team members on board with you?
There was definitely other areas where people where I asked for feedback on. I mean, I was the one who filled it out. It could have been passed around to 3 or 4 people that could have filled in the information. I kind of had my fingers in everything. And so I was able to pull that together easier than maybe some others. But yeah, yep. You need a team behind you to get it filled out.
Good. Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think the only other part I want to chime into that is that if someone's sitting here and saying, hey, is this for us or, you know, whatnot, it has to be. I mean, we have Amazon is our, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, they were our small, I mean, they're just a regular customer. And now they're in our top 3, you know, they're right there with our Uline and Granger, and they're changing business at everywhere else we do business. And so without Industry 4.0, I don't know if we could maintain our sales volume. I don't know if we can maintain shipping, just shipping times in general. And so we know we have to do this if we want to compete globally.
Great. Thank you, Ryan.
Welcome, Jason.
And as we go through, I'm sure there'll be some of our participants today or later on that'll have questions for Rich or even Ryan about their experience. And so we'll make sure that we can connect you up with them. And as we kind of jump into some future events, so this grant is going to have a number of future activities. We want to have a various events, both in the NMC lab when it's finished, and some with our industry partners, and then some sooner, like the one that you see on your screen right now, is on November 11th. MMTC, so Rich Woolen and Betsy Williams, have organized an Industry 4.0 technology showcase as part of this grant opportunity. And so we actually have MMTC's roadshow. This is a roadshow that goes all over the state and showcases some of the latest technology and Industry 4.0 initiatives. And we're going to have it right here at the Parsons Stulins building on NMC's Aero Park campus on November 11th from 9 to 11. This will be, for those of you that attended our Industry 4.0 collaborative robot demonstration, this will go much farther because this is going to showcase many different pieces of that technology I showed at the beginning here. So we'll have everything from collaborative robots to smart sensors to additive manufacturing to even more. And like I said, those that have experienced the showcase before have found it very invaluable. And we're looking at it as an opportunity to kind of see what the experimentation is around Industry 4.0 and what are those takeaways, like Ryan said, that you can bring back immediately, especially with a reputable vendor in-house here to assist. So Rich, anything you want to add about that roadshow, or Kent or Rob?
Well, first thing I do is give the credit for making this happen to Betsy and you, Jason. I know you guys had worked on it, so
No, it's all Betsy on that one.
Okay, all right, don't give me any of the credit, but we're pretty excited about it. So this is the current state of what MMTC has for demonstration equipment. It's important to see stuff like real life and hear the stories of how different manufacturers around Michigan or around the country are applying the technology in real world settings to accomplish real business challenges or problems. I mean, it has to come down to practical application. Some companies might get into this stuff, so they got a showpiece and they can kind of show it off. But most businesses, especially small to medium-sized businesses in our area, they're talking about making a significant investment in equipment to help their business move forward. So it's got to make sense. And so we try to take that practical approach with our assessment. I'm pretty excited about having this showcase up here in partnership with NMC, because I think there's a huge connection between the business and the education and continuing education. And I think we're demonstrating that just by having this activity here. So we're really looking forward to it. And if you are a manufacturer, please get registered to come see it. If you work with manufacturers and know who they are, please encourage them to register and come. It's free of charge, and we'd love to see you there. Thanks.
just want to add too, Jason, that I'm kind of the baby of the bunch when it comes to knowledge of Industry 4.0 and the technology. So personally, I'm really looking forward to this. And, it kind of goes back to the first line on Rich's slide was don't get left behind. And I would say it applies to this too. Like, do not miss out on this. I know we've got some partners even here today that are from the Cadillac region and the Petoskey region. And I know we are going to look at, taking this road show on the road even further in trying to find some other stops around the region. But that of course takes aligning schedules. So we can't predict necessarily when that would be. This is something that we have right now. We know what the date is. We can get 50 participants from 9 to 11. Betsy said if we go over, if there's more than 50, we can also do a slot in the afternoon, I believe from noon to 2. I think Betsy and Brenda have both included the registration link down in the chat box. So, just do not miss out on this. It's an incredible opportunity, I think, to, along with this being able to look and feel and touch and see, and then, you partner that up with what Jason and NMC have going with the training, and then with basically, each company in this region basically has supplemental R&D through this learning lab. And so seriously taking advantage of those opportunities to try this stuff out for free or very low cost is just, you can't beat it. So again, I want to thank Betsy, Rich, and Jason. Betsy has included that link again in the chat box here. So please avail yourself of this opportunity. We will be having, as Jason mentioned, at least 2 other larger events. So we've got this one planned for November 11th. We plan to have another one in February 2020. And then in May of 2020, we're still in the process of nailing down, speakers or presentations for that. We know we'll be doing something once all of the equipment has been installed at NMC in the Learning Lab too, as kind of another open house. So be on the lookout for those upcoming events, while also, again, like I said, availing yourself of the opportunity on November 11th.
May I chime in? Thank you, Kent. First, just for those that are not able to join us that will be watching the recording, there was a question regarding chain company. Chain company, did companies like Amazon, Uline, Grainger tie you into their systems via Industry 4.0 digital technology? Ryan, would you like to answer that question, or would you like me to read the answer?
No, I can answer it. That's not a problem. Basically, these larger companies, again, they're multi-billion dollar companies. They give us kind of the requirements that we need to meet their strict standards. And the support's pretty well minimal. I mean, it's just kind of the way things have gone recently. We've lost a lot of product managers that used to handle us and used to be able to ask them questions and kind of work through things. And they've done away with those positions. It's the business model of today that they don't need those middle people. They don't want that personal relationship. At Amazon, I might have somebody that helps me out for 3 to 6 months, and then they get moved. And it's flat out because they don't want that person building a personal relationship with somebody. So we're kind of on our own, and we kind of got to do our thing, and we got to be out in front of technology, and just to compete and just keep getting the sales volume. Because if we can't get the sales volume, if we can't handle the shipments, or it's not good enough, we have nobody to call if we're late. We're going to be replaced. So
thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Thank you. And then I have a question regarding the Industry 4.0 technology showcase. It's from 9 to 11. Is that something that people can attend throughout that time frame, or do they need to arrive at 9 and it goes all the way to 11? Okay, 9 to 11, you need to be there the entire time.
Yeah, so Rich, correct? It's a 2-hour window that they should plan on attending the entire time.
Right, because there's going to be a kind of a presentation portion, but then there's a lot of hands-on portions. So you're not just going to be watching this stuff. If the manufacturers get to come to it, they get to play with some of the technology hands-on. You know, I think that later part, if people, you know, have seen what they came to see and want to leave early, that's probably fine. But you should plan on being there at 9, and my guess is you'll probably want to stay longer than 11 just to play more and ask more questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Does anyone have comments, more questions?
Well, I'll speak on behalf of the team, Brenda. You know, if anybody has questions or follow up or as we progress, because like Kent said, this is going to be a longer duration project that hopefully leads to more and more opportunities around Industry 4.0. So we will take questions, input, comments, you know, at any time as it goes. Into the presentation at contact information that'll show up in the recorded presentation as well. And just reach out to any one of us, and we meet regularly, and so we can converse and come up with an answer for any topic really.
Thank you, Jason. All right, I will
One thing
stop
I'd like to add.
Oh, sorry,
Sorry.
Rich. Go ahead.
I see that there's a lot of service providers on the call, and I just want to encourage you, reach out to your manufacturers and processors that you work with and encourage them to start to get involved with this, show up for the showcase on November 11th. If they can't make that, touch base with us, either Jason or myself or any of the partners can. And also encourage them to set a baseline on what the next steps for them are going through the Industry 4.0 assessment, either with MMTC or using Automation Alley. So just be mindful that we're trying to keep all our manufacturers and processors competitive, because that helps all our communities. So thanks.
Thank you, Rich.